Hello chess lovers, Suren here, and in this video I would like to share with you a magnificent attacking game played by Soviet chess grandmaster David Bronstein. His opponent is Norwegian chess master Ernst Rojahn, and this game was played in 1956 at Moscow Olympiad. Let's see what happened on the board. Bronstein opened up with e4 and Rojahn responded with e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4. We have the Italian game knight f6, black is choosing the two knights defense, thus inviting white to go for knight g5. Knight g5 is on the board. Here we have d5, e takes d5, knight a5 and d3. Not the most popular continuation. Usually instead of playing d3, white is announcing a check from b5 and then is capturing on c6 and then is moving back his bishop on e2. But in our game we have d3, and here is how Bronstein commands this move. Whilst preparing for my game against the Norwegian master Rojahn, I stumbled upon a curious idea based upon the power of mobile pawns. Then I remembered that Morphy liked to play the variation with pawn queen 3. Here Rojahn played h6, and after knight f3 we have e4. Before this game, usually white was playing queen e2, but in our game Bronstein came up with a staggering idea, and instead of playing queen e2 or knight d4, which is also a nice choice, he went for d takes e4. This is move 8, and already he goes for a piece sacrifice. Here is how he commands this move. Morphy liked to play the variation with 6 pawn queen 3, and I eagerly opened a collection of his games. There was not a word about the move pawn takes pawn, and not a single game played in that way. Good, I shall risk it and be its originator. I got permission from my team colleagues and rushed into the fight. But let's see where's white's compensation. Black accepted the sacrifice and captured on c4. Here we have queen d4, knight b6 and c4. Against the piece white got 2 pawns, and this allows white to establish an unopposed pawn center. Here black played c5, although it was better to keep the c5 square for the bishop. For example, knight d7 is a better move, and then bishop c5. The bishop feels very active on the c5 square, but in our game we have c5, and then this c-pawn is like somewhat blocking the dark squared bishop's diagonal, making it passive, and at the same time this allows white to gain a protected passed pawn on d5. Here Bronstein moved back his queen on d3, bishop g4, knight d2, bishop e7, we have castling by both sides, and knight e5, bishop h5, b3. Now Bronstein will also fianchetto his dark squared bishop, after which we have the exchange of knights on e5, knight d7, bishop c3 and bishop f6. Black is offering the exchange of dark squared bishops, and we have it. Bishop takes c3, queen takes c3. Meanwhile, Bronstein centralized his rook as well, and now he can go for a pawn push. Queen f6, and there it goes, e5 is on the board. Queen f5. This time we have f4, bishop g6 and knight e4. Rook b8, a very strange move. Instead of playing rook b8, it was better to go for b5, try to create a counterplay on the queen side, even at the cost of a pawn. If c takes b5, then a6. But in our game we have rook b8. Black is also overprotecting the pawn on b7, acting against any possible knight d7 forks, but Bronstein has completely different ideas. He wants to go for a pawn storm. Queen f3 was played, the queen is coming to support the g-pawn, and after bishop h7 we have g4. Look at this, guys. White pawns made black's pieces tremble, and they are gradually crawling back. Queen g6, this time we have f5, queen b6, queen g3. White is first protecting this pawn. f6, another terrible move, which allows white to gain the second passed pawn. e6 is on the board, knight e5, and there it goes, h5, king h8, and this time we have g5. This is move 30, and still all 8 white pawns are on the board, and this is an armada of passed pawns, guys. Look at this pawn storm. Yes, this is not a pawn storm, this is an armada of passed pawns. Rook c8 was played, king h1, queen d8, and this time we have g6. Here black decided to give away his light squared bishop on and captured on g6, although even if I move like bishop g8, then this won't help black. d6 is coming and black is in trouble. If queen b6, then in here white can choose either between e7 or even knight takes f6 is playable, a move which is blowing apart black's position. If g takes f6, then this is simple, g7 is coming, and if rook takes f6, then queen takes e5. Or after knight takes f6, if queen takes d6, then this time knight takes g8 is coming, followed by rook takes e8. And again, white's attack is irresistible. Let's go back. In our game after g6, we have bishop takes g6 and f takes g6, b5. Meanwhile, black is trying to weaken white's pawn structure, but there is no way. d6 is on the board, the threat is e7, queen b6, and this time we have d7. Knight takes d7, black is also giving away his knight, but let's take a look at other lines as well. What if, for example, black moves away his rook? Then in this case, white can go for rook takes f6 sacrifice. If rook takes f6, then knight takes f6, and if g takes f6, then white can go for the second rook sacrifice. Yes, guys, this is a very beautiful line. And then e7 is coming, and it's over. White is winning. Let's go back in our game after d7. We have knight takes d7 and simply e takes d7. Rook d8. Now comes knight takes f6. Finally, Bronstein goes for this knight takes f6 move, which is blowing apart black's king side. Now if rook takes f6, then rook e8 check is coming, and then black king is getting checkmated. And yes, g takes f6 can't be played because of this g7 fork. In here actually black announced a desperate check, but after queen g2 resigned. Now if I move like queen takes g2, then simply king takes g2, and if g takes f6, then rook e7 is coming. If king g8, then g7, and if rook f7, then rook e8 check. The game is over. That's why after queen g2, Ernst Rojahn resigned. The interesting thing about this game is that when on move 8 Bronstein played d takes e4, Ernst Rojahn thought that this was a blunder by David Bronstein. In the end, as usual, would like to ask you to solve a chess puzzle. Please take a look at this position, which is also taken from David Bronstein's game. It's black to move and win the game. I will wait for your answer in the comment section. Thanks for watching. If you liked this majestic game, give the thumbs up. For more games, consider subscribing to my channel. Also press the bell button to get notified about new uploads. I will see you in my next video. Good luck.